my name's Veronica, and I'm going to continue off from what Koja just presented. And something that I wanted to emphasize is asking for letters of rec. I feel like when I was applying to grad school, it's something I didn't know was as important. And as I have applied for fellowships in grad school, I've learned that this is really important. And so I kind of wanted to give like a mini session aside from what Koja presented, focusing on this. And so as Koja mentioned, what you really want to do in your applications is sell your story. Each of you is unique. You each have a unique story that brought you to enjoy research, and now you want to go to grad school. So while the statement of purpose is going to say a lot about that, you really want your letters of rec and your recommenders to be on track on what you really want to do. And so today I'm going to talk to you about what I summarized as 5 steps. And again, this is really my opinion, but this is something that I found useful. And the first step is deciding whom to ask. The second step I'll be talking to you about is picking the right timing to ask these recommenders. Setting up meeting, providing the right information for those people that you're asking, and lastly, following up with them. So if you do get into grad school, basically following up with them. And so, yeah, let's just jump into these, each of these. So as I mentioned, each of you has a unique story. And you really want that to show in your application, and you really want the committee that's reviewing them to see that. So each of you has, of course, is about to finish undergrad, and obviously you have an academic, you want someone who can talk about that academic performance throughout your undergrad, but you also want someone that can talk about your career aspirations. So you're applying for graduate school, each of you has different goals, or maybe you're trying to figure it out. You've probably done research, you have different interests, so you really want someone that can talk about that. And lastly, who you are as a person. So maybe, you did research on all this, but maybe you were also involved in other stuff. Maybe you care about outreach activities like, hey, I don't know, you went to judge a science fair, or you participated in science events somewhere, or simply volunteered at a charity or whatever. You really want someone to portray all these characteristics about you. So what I really want to encourage you today to do as you're reading your CVs is to think about these people that can probably say something about this about you. Think about course professors that you really develop a relationship with. I don't know, like for me, I really like my biochemistry course, and I feel like just out of that interest, I developed a relationship with my professor back in undergrad. Some of you are doing research. Think about your research mentor, people in your lab. Meet with them, like say, hey, I'm applying to grad school. Also volunteer work, for those of you that have done volunteer work or participated in other activities. Think about some people there that can say something about you. And really think about those one-on-one relationships. Those that can say something really personal about you. And so, as Koja mentioned, these applications generally require 3 letters of rec. So for today, I would recommend making a list of at least 4 to 5 candidates that could be your recommenders. And then hopefully in a couple of weeks, you can narrow that down to 3. And so the second thing I want to talk about is picking the right time to ask for these letters. So, yeah.
I just wanted to make one quick comment.
Yeah.
Like what you said, like really like make sure that this person like actually like really like knows you.
Yeah.
And it's more about substance and style. Mm-hmm. Like one of working at Berkeley, one of the professors, the most popular is Robert Reich, and he teaches this class with 700 students. And it'd be great to get a letter of recommendation from the Secretary of Labor, working with the president and stuff like that. But he doesn't know you if there's 700 people. So even if you were to get a letter of recommendation from this individual, what can we really say about you? Oh, so-and-so was a good student in my class. That's not what you really want. like really like give like concrete examples. So go after that person rather than someone who just has a big title and doesn't really know.
No, no, definitely, yeah. Go for those personal relationships. I think that's what committees really look for. Like, oh, this person really knew, or this professor really knew this student. Or for me, for example, I was really involved with ASM, the American Society for Microbiology. Like, we had a student chapter, and I reached out to whoever was heading that. Like, hey, can you write me a letter? Like, yeah, and basically she focused on talking about like what I did for that. So I don't know, it's useful to think about those things. Uh, and also, okay, moving on. Not only do you have to think about who to ask, but you also should think about when to ask. So as Kojo was mentioning, a lot of these applications are due generally December 1st. Some are due later in the year. And I think it's good to think 1 month ahead of time to start asking for these letters because sometimes people end up being busy and they don't really have it on their schedule, like the time to actually write these letters. So I would recommend as of today to like really put it on your calendars, like November 1st. I'm gonna try to at least ask all these people, like 4 to 5 people. Just start contacting people. And yeah, just remember, you are busy. They're also busy. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes they won't write you one because they're really busy, but yeah, always have a backup choice. Yeah.
I guess the personal tip for that is if you ask with enough time before the deadline, you could kind of give them like an artificial deadline. Like don't give them the deadline of when the application
That's
is
true.
earlier in case they don't meet it or meet in time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, to the main point, if you want to give them the real deadline, be sure to email them like 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks, 1 week, 3 days. Like I can tell you from experience, I've never had a recommendation submitted more than like 4 hours before the deadline. So even like that day, be like, hey, just want to let you know, it's not in PST, it's in EST. Keep it on. Keep it on your radar. So that they are like aware of what's going on.
I think there's grad schools that know this, and usually they put a later deadline for those letters. Don't even mention it to them. Like, just put a hard deadline on them, because otherwise, yeah, they'll wait till the last minute. Yeah. Okay.
You also want to some way to be organized because you're asking these people to send letters of recommendation to different schools, right? So you want to make it easy for them. When I applied, like it was, I did it all by, I had a folder with where I was applying, where, where you needed to send it, by when, like it was all, but it was in a folder, right? I think now it might not be as feasible now, so you want to do it via email. So you just want to be organized and for them to make their job easier. So just think about those things. Another thing too is a lot of people might ask you to write your own letter. So be prepared to have something sketched out. I think that might be easier for you. You can even, tell them that you have a draft letter that they can use to modify if they feel comfortable. So that may make things easier perhaps. But I would wait until, the very last resource because I think it will be more effective if it comes from. But just keep that in mind that you might want to have to draft your own letter. So I'm doing this right now, and what I'm doing for my letter recommendation center, it's sort of moved forward on, and some of them it's like you have to say contact the letter recommender or the letter recommender has to upload it online with multiple different things. So I made like a table of like in school and like did you submit it and like check it off, and I'm like giving them that like information in an email form so they can like do it themselves. So
Oh. That's a useful tip, especially when you have like 8 that year.
Like, it's a lot, especially if you're trying to do school.
Okay. Well, that's a useful tip. good question. I feel like for
I think it depends on the
I
program that you're
yeah.
applying to. If it's a PhD program, you should definitely have someone with a PhD, at least like one or two. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's not like if you're applying for like master's programs. It's not necessary unless it's a research focused program because it adds weight. Like if a researcher is
Mm-hmm.
vouching like on your skills, if you're applying for a professional program like an MPH, JD, MBA, it's not necessary to have a PhD.
And something that I would like to add, which is along the lines of it depends what aspect they're talking about, right? If they're talking about your outreach, then I don't think it's necessary for them to be a PhD. But if they're talking about your research, then I think it is necessary for them to be a PhD. So it just depends on what aspect of you are they interviewing.
Also for that question, I think something that can go like if you're doing research in lab, you're doing it for an undergrad student or like a postdoc and not really like a student. And so when you ask it to echo writing some research or like for instance, the person you work with, and the PI will probably be like, okay, you write a letter and I'll sign it.
Yeah.
But so you don't have to feel like somebody has to ask that step because you're the program. So it'll probably help the PI.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that too. I did several summer internships, and I remember that like I never met with a PI in one. But yeah, definitely feel confident to contact like the grad student that you work with or the postdoc, and usually there's a relationship there that happens. Like they'll usually write the letter, and then usually the PI will sign it, and like yeah. So don't worry about that too. Okay, so this is like the scheduling, and now let's move on to like actually emailing the PI. So, when you want to contact them, of course you want to email them. Oh, I think I got stuck. Hold on, my computer froze. Cool. Okay. So yeah, as we were mentioning, yeah, you're gonna email these PIs, and sometimes some like to write these letters. But I also encountered when I was applying to grad school that some of these PIs don't like to write letters. So I think it's good to email several of them. Sometimes you get a sense of who doesn't want to write a letter just from emailing them and seeing how they respond. So be don't take it hard on yourself if they say no. Sometimes it's just a personal preference. And also use these emails to schedule a time to meet. I think what was useful for me when I was asking for these letters is to schedule a small meeting with them, or even a phone call. For one of them, I had a phone call, and just briefly talk about what you're writing about in your state, the programs you're applying to, what you actually want to do in your career, and also like talk a little bit about what you're writing on your statement. Sometimes it's useful to kind of connect what you're writing in your statement with these letters. I think it makes your application a little bit stronger. Yeah. And that goes in line with providing the right information. So you can schedule a meeting, a phone call, or whatever, or even if it's by email. Like if the relationship's really personal between you and your recommender, you can basically provide a small paragraph, like, or sometimes they'll even ask you to provide a small paragraph, and you can like kind of say the universities that you're applying to, the different programs that you're applying to, what you're interested in these programs, the degree that you're pursuing right now, why you want to attend grad school, what makes you passionate about research, about going to grad school. You might mention some extracurricular interest. It's also useful to provide a resume for them, so they use resumes as a reference. And most importantly, I think it's making sure that they tell your story, because you're unique, you each have unique experiences, and I think it's very crucial for them to really show that in the letters. And so lastly, just to finish off, my last step that I wanted to point out is follow up. So these people are taking time out of their busy schedules to write you these letters. And sometimes it could be a lot of letters. So just make sure that I'm pretty sure you're all going to apply and hopefully get into grad school. So let them know where you end up. I think it's very rewarding when they learn that, hey, I actually contributed for this student to get into grad school. And so, yeah, I just want to end up with a small little to-do list. So today, hopefully, or throughout the week, you can make a list of contacts and hopefully you can email them and get some responses and start scheduling meetings and yeah, talk about your story and make sure they get them through. And just if you guys want to contact me or yeah, if you're interested in the program or any other programs and I can get you in touch with anyone, feel free to email me. I guess you'll send out information later. So, yeah. Any questions?
What are some questions you have?
Yeah.
Say like one of your letter writers is really far away, you can't have an in-person people. You could hold the email address and you schedule to Skype or phone call with them.
So I did both. For one, I just did email. For another one, he actually suggested a phone call. And I thought it was useful because he was like, hey, I remember you talking about this. But it had been like 3 years before that I had done like an internship with him. I thought it was useful to catch up, like what I was doing now. And even though he had my resume, he was also able to like write notes on kind of what he was writing about. So I think it's a personal preference, like, but I would recommend like getting like that contact. Yeah. Yeah.
So, for some schools, I know there's like no letter recommendations, so I have 5 people, and so I have 2 people in my lab, I have an PI and my mentor, and I was thinking that, they would both write me one, and then we would read it and pick another one. And it didn't really work out that way because my PI was like, okay, I wrote it already, let me send it to the school. And I was like, oh, and like, especially since I signed off that confidentiality thing, I just took that really seriously. So then, like, I lost that option, like, for my mentor to write me that other information. So I don't know, like, what the right, like, communication is supposed to be had because, I don't know, it's just like, I had to tell my mentor, like, oh yeah, you don't need to write one, she already wrote one. Because he even thought that she would let me read it, or like, I don't know, it's just like a weird, touchy, I can't say, like, hey, you need to read it.
Usually they don't.
Great, but it's like,
Yeah.
she took the confidentiality thing seriously.
I think it depends on how you frame it. Because I ran into the problem where I was very anxious, like because I applied to every internship program, every grad school, and I didn't want to keep coming back to the same like people and keep begging them to update whatever I was applying for. So the way I framed it, in order to save you time, can I take a look at the letter that you got right now? Now make some updates like along the way, and then I'll send it to you, and you approve like you make any changes that you feel necessary, and then send it. So that way, I got to like actually like read what they wrote me previously and get a sense of like who would write me a strong letter of recommendation. Because that's the thing that you really want, someone that can really write strong things about you, show confidence in you, and all that. So that's one strategy. I want to help you save time. Send me your stuff and stuff like that. Along the way, just make I'll write whatever, and you sign off on the updates or make any changes that you see fit.
For me, I only got to see one. The rest were kind of like that confidentiality. For some people, I did make it clear, like, hey, I worked with you on this and that. Like, can you talk a little bit about that? But I think by the end of the day, it is their decision.
I found this recommendation which I didn't use myself, but when you ask me for a recommendation on it, use the specific words that you feel comfortable writing in really strong recommendation. Just use your mindset of how to actually upset that
That's a good point. Yeah.
Go out on I haven't recorded myself, so I don't know.
So yeah, that's definitely a great great idea to do.
Mhm.
Because I've had someone on admissions, maybe my mentor, she read, an application. The person wrote, this student's always late, doesn't turn in their assignments, and that's the person recommending it. So that, you don't want that. So make sure to ask, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? If they're hesitant or say, like, give you any, like, feelings of no, you're better off going to someone else who can write strong things about you.
That's good advice.
Any other
Anything
questions
else?
that you may have about the application process? So everyone gets it? Everyone knows the graduate application and how to ask for a letter of rec? All right, cool. I think we'll transition.
Do you guys have an example of an email you would write to someone to open that up?
I was planning on writing one tomorrow, or yeah, I think it would be useful to just send it to everyone because I feel like I didn't have that either. It was like harder.